Hello, I'm Chris. Welcome back to Marine Corner. This is going to be a new segment that I'm going to do weekly. It's called Cornered by Books. This is week one. First of all, why am I creating this? So I was feeling a lot of burnout with what I had to post. So going, for instance, like TBRs and wrap-ups and things like that. Not actually getting to them, or because I've not really been planning what I'm reading next. And from a couple of months ago I said I didn't really want to do TBRs because I wasn't really I was seeming to mood read. Like at the minute I've got 5 books there that I'm between. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with the 5 books. I fancy them all next, but I'm not sure what. So that's why I've kind of reined that back and just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do a weekly video. I might talk about the same books sometimes. You know, I've got some books on that I'm currently reading that have been on my currently reading for too long. In fact, that might be one that I'm actually, need that one. Oh. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. So there's quite a lot of books there that I'm but that'll probably carry on, keep going. Some of them. So it's just like a quick catch up, what I'm doing, what I'm reading, what I want to read next, maybe. Not too strict, not too. Excuse me, I've had some fizzy water. So I've got sparkling water, I should say. I suppose that's probably the correct term anyway. So yeah, so that's why I just want to do this. So it's like just to stick a camera on, film and talk about generally what I've been doing. So that's why I'm creating this, so it's a bit less structured, a bit less needing to plan. I mean, I will plan what I want to talk about, but I don't want to feel like I have to do TBRs and wrap-ups and things like that. I just want it to be low pressure and just chatty and just me, being me. So I feel like taking the element of stress of feeling like, oh, you need to do that because it's the end of the month, you need to do that, and not having the time to do it. This is like a weekly video. I'm going to try and do it on a Friday, because it's a Friday now, and try and get it uploaded by Saturday, or Saturday and upload it Friday. Film it Saturday, upload it Saturday. It just depends what I'm doing, where I am at the minute. What I've been up to generally. So that's why I've created this. And then what I've been up to lately, I've been playing a lot of Switch. My mate gave me a Switch, so we've been playing like Mario, and I've been playing a bit of Lego and a couple of and 13 that I've got as well, which is a remake that I'm enjoying. I've obviously been reading. I'm back at the gym, like I said last time. Still at the gym, still going. I'm not feeling great about it today. I don't know. I'm feeling like really good and looking in the mirror and I can see where my body's changing, but tonight I just got sick of looking at myself in the mirror at the gym, trying to make sure I'm doing the weights right, and I just started feeling conscious. So, but I'm going. If I'm packing my bag, I'm going. There's no like, if I pack my bag, I don't think I'll go. If my bag's packed, I'm going. So that's my process. Trying to go 5 nights a week, which is a lot, but one night's just cardio. Just because we're going Dragons we're watching Samuel, watching Samuel at Dragons on a Tuesday and a Thursday. I don't always have time for cardio, and on Friday I don't always want to do it because it's end of the week and I want to get home. So that's that. What else have I been up to? I did start doing some writing, but I've not really picked it back up again. But I am thinking about writing some short fiction or poetry, which is what I'm thinking about doing when I get some spare time. So that's that. What else have I been doing? I've been watching bits of Bob's the series. I watched Will Trent, that was quite good. That's based on books by Karen Slaughter. Towards the end of this last season, though, it got a bit cheesy, but it was alright, it was a good watch. Watched Untamed as well, that was quite good. That's on Disney Plus, same with Will Trent. And that's it really. I've not really watched many films lately. I've been watching Lethal Weapons. That's it. Other than that, not much. Got my son this weekend, so he's going with his friends tomorrow, so while he's at his friends I'll probably chill out and read for a couple of hours and then pick him back up and have a bit of time then before going home. What else are we up to? So that's that. And then, so going on to reading, book hauls I'm not really going to be doing regularly because I'm feeling a bit inundated with books and want to reduce my unread pile. I'm not saying I won't buy books, like I have got a couple in my basket on eBay that I want to get. That's Reggie behind me, that. I want to get a few books. They're in me, like, I want to buy them, but I'm just holding off just because of cash flow and just having enough to read at the minute. So that's that. I've got too many library books at the minute and don't really know what to do with it now because I've got nearly my quota out from the library and then loads on the reserve shelf. I mean, I can re-reserve things, but I'm finding it hard because the majority of the books I've got out I want to read, and the majority of books I've got out to read, plan to read, I also really want to read. So that's that. The library books are upstairs at the minute, so I need to pull them out after and maybe have an idea of what one I take back, what I think I'll read sooner rather than later, and what I think I'll not rush to read. So I think I need to be a bit more, I'm trying to think of the word, a bit more like, what's it called? A bit more like, the word's gone. It's a bit more like deliberate with my reading. So it's like, this is what you're reading. So yeah, that's that. And then going on to reading as well, I've got in this room like what I'm classing as 3 TBRs. They're all separate TBRs. Like I want to finish reading one TBR before I start the next one. So like with there's one right over there. Oh, I can't point properly where the door is, and then next to the door is the bell thing. Underneath that is like a pile of books that I'm currently working my way through. So it's got like things like Wolf Hall and Angels and Demons. So like, and other books as well, like Stephen King and Ian Banks. So Stephen King and Ian Banks, I'm reading them in publication order, so that any books like that will continue into this section, and any books I've already read, like I read the Border and things like that, or you know, it'll continue on in this shelf and then the bottom one, and then I'll start again with it once I'll move the third shelf up and then start again with the fourth. So I'm working my way through books I haven't read as well, so that's why I'm not doing the book hauls as much. On Goodreads, I've reduced my goal from 200 books, which seemed a bit crazy, but last year I read 155 books, and I'm on 86 books so far, although that's a bit annoying, and I'll get into that in a minute, once I've gone through what I've recently read. But 160, so I'm about halfway. I've got a few books on the go as well, so with those I think I'll probably be about right once I do a bit of catching up with certain things, which is part of what I'll talk to you about in a minute. So that's that. What else? So what I've recently read quite a lot of books since we last spoke. I think last time I was showing a few books that I've read. So I finished Post Office by Charles Bukowski, which is one of his Chinansky novels. I think it's the third one. Yeah, it's the third one, because the next one's Women and then Hollywood, which is his one where he talks about his screenplay he did, Barfly. So that's that. So Post Office, though, is about his job how he gets his job as a post office. Starts off saying that it was a mistake. It's just a really good, interesting book about his life as a post office. As he's quite down and out kind of, he always seems to be struggling, and then, he starts writing and things like that. So yeah, so it's just an interesting book. There's a bit of sex in it, obviously, because it's Bukowski. If that's not your kind of thing, then fine. But I do find with Bukowski, he does write it like in a way that's not. It's not. I wouldn't say it's well written, but I wouldn't say it's not like. It's not cheesy or corny. It's like quite. It's kind of how it. It's kind of deprecating, I guess. It's like, it's not exactly... He doesn't paint women in a good light, obviously, but that's... And I get that, but I also feel like he writes it true. Kind of... It's raw, and it's not like flowery, and it's just kind of... I don't know if I want of a better term, really, like that, but it's quite interesting. It's quite sad about... the woman he loved. I can't remember her name because she has different names in the book. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's only a short novel. So yeah, I want to read Women Next by Bukowski. That's my next one on the Chinansky books. And I also finished Mall Lockdown by Joel Schreiber. I enjoyed this book, but I wanted more of a Star Wars kind of lightsaber kind of battle, but it was just basically Darth Maul undercover in a prison. It was quite interesting. I enjoyed it. Not sure I'd reread it, and it's not because I didn't enjoy it. I just think there's probably so many more Star Wars books that will probably scratch more of that lightsaber sort of itch that I'll enjoy more. But yeah, it was quite good. Darth Maul I thought was a really good character because he was like in this prison but couldn't use the Force, so then he had to find some guy, and he was kind of hiding and stuff, and then it kind of goes through that, and then while he's in prison there's sort of these duels as well. Not duels like battles, duels, like with a D, duels with a D. So that's quite interesting. Like the cell opens up, and then he ends up in a duel with certain people from the prison. So that was good. I also read John for Short by Mallory Blackman, which I think is supposed to be a children's book, but I find it quite stark, really, and quite dark. So maybe it's not a children's book, it's more of a short story. I'm not quite sure where it kind of talks about a boy who's looking for his brother, but it seems like, there's a bit of a twist there that I'm not going to go into, but it's only short. It'd probably be a half an hour read. It's got quite a bit of repetition in it with some of the paragraphs in it. So yeah, but I quite enjoyed that. I read a couple of comics as well. I read Global Frequency Volume 1 and 2 by Warren Ellis. It was okay. I wasn't overtaken. I've only read one volume of Transmetropolitan, but I enjoyed that more. But it's about everyone's on the global frequency, and then everyone just comes to the rescue as and when they're needed. And it goes on through that, really. But it's really good. I'd definitely reread it. It's only 2 volumes, so it's not like it would take long as a reread. And then I read The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, which is about it's kind of like a vampire kind of story, but I wasn't really overtaken by it, to be honest. I wasn't, I felt like it was quite slow in places, and it's kind of it's going through it's kind of telling it's from different perspectives. Like there's a I think he's a pastor. I think he gets called father, but he doesn't like being called father because he's a pastor. And he kind of like helps, he kind of takes the Indian story and then he starts telling it, and then his daughter finds, it starts with his daughter finding the book from her ancestor from years ago, and that kind of then you go through that story. It was quite interesting. I'm not sure, it's making me want to read The Only Good Indians. I don't feel like I don't want to read more of Stephen Graham Jones, but I was just a bit on the fence about that book. And this is a book I wasn't on the fence about, my next one. Lords of Chaos by Michael Monaghan and Didrik Soderlind. Sorry. I don't know. Black metal isn't a type of music I liked. I was hoping this would be a bit of a gateway into it, like finding out about different bands, different albums, how the albums were made, where they were made, and more stuff like that. Not as well as like obviously the Satanist side of it and church burnings and stuff like that. I knew I'd read about as well, but that wasn't what I was interested in. But it just seemed to be very much all about the ideology. I mean, the first few chapters, I was like, wow, this is great. And it just, I don't know, it just took a nosedive. And then I just hated reading it. I still finished it. And I enjoyed it because I kept reading. But I mean, it just wasn't, although I enjoyed it, it wasn't what I wanted from the book. I'd much rather have known more about the bands, who was in the bands, or how the albums were made, or where they were made, or more about the actual groups, and like more about Dark Throne and Burzum and stuff like that than I did find out about the ideology. I knew it was there. It's black metal. It's going to be there, but it just wasn't for me really in the end of that. So that's that. And then I read All the Colours of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. This one I found it really interesting because when I first started it, I thought, if it's going to be like the ending, if that's going to be the ending, what I thought was going to be the ending, I thought, it's going to be terrible, this. And it wasn't the ending. The ending was better than what I expected, so it made it better on that front. But it's kind of like a coming-of-age tale, because it starts off with a beekeeper who's a girl called Saint, and then a boy who called Patch, who's was an eye patch on his eye, because he's only got one eye. And you kind of learn about how they go through this tale in the story. And quite early on, there's a girl getting attacked, and Patch saves her, and then he gets kidnapped, and then it goes from there really. But it's just, there's no, like when you're reading it, you're like, I hope this, you're like, I was kind of hoping it'd go a different way than it does, but it's some places it's quite sad, and you're not expecting it to be so sad and stuff like that. But I think it was a really good read. It was definitely more interesting than I expected it to be with my thought process on the book. I thought, it's going to be like this, and it wasn't. So for me, it was better because of that. But yeah, I definitely recommend it if you're interested into like crime thrillers, sort of things like that. It's really good. And then finally, I also have an audio book this month. So I listened to Down with the System by Serge Tankian out of System of a Down. System of a Down are a band I used to listen to as a kid. Like when I was a teenager, nu metal was coming out, and nu metal was a thing, like Korn. Well, not so much Korn, because they were already established by the time I was getting into them. Like the 5th album wasn't quite out when I was getting into Korn. But yeah, System of a Down. But it's really interesting because they're Armenian descent. So it goes into the genocide of the Armenians in Turkey, which then made me want to read the 40 Days of Muscadad by Franz Werfel. Then it was about the band, how the band comes together and stuff like that, and it was really interesting to find out about this this band that I've liked for years, you know. So I mean, I'd recommend it if you like System of a Down, or if you like it says a memoir of sorts, which I thought was quite good, because I do quite like memoirs and stuff like that, and it's on Spotify and it's read by Serge Tankian, which is good because he does laugh through it, and you kind of get a feeling of who he is with the way he reads his story as well. He's not just like, this is what happened. Feels like there's a bit of humanity there, and it's really interesting. So yeah, that was really good. But then I was getting into audiobooks at that point, and then that's what I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I'm going to go through what I'm currently reading physically, and then I'll talk about my audiobooks. So my main read, or what I'm focusing my most of my reading time on, is Tree of Smoke by Dennis Johnson. So it's set in Southeast Asia and the US, and it's spanning 2 decades, and it's the story of Skip Sands, a CIA spy who may or may not be engaged in psychological operations against the Viet Cong. It is also the story of Skip's uncle, the colonel, who is CIA as well, and misunderstood or mad. And then there's Eddie, Voss and Jimmy, who Skip runs into or from every now and again. He doesn't know whose side they're on, but he doesn't know if it's not necessarily his. So it's really interesting. I feel like it's a bit slow at first because I feel like I've been feeling like, I need to concentrate a bit more on it. But I am quite far in it. I'm 180 pages in so far. I was kind of aiming for about 50 pages, but then because I've been playing Switch a bit and I've been watching stuff, I've not really read this yet, but I'll be carrying on with it after. And I'm still reading a few books I'm still reading, so Books of Blood, I'm on the last story in the first book in volume 4, which is, I think it's called The Age of Desire. Yeah, The Age of Desire. So I'm going to try and finish that once I read Tree of Smoke. I'm enjoying this book. This is called Art, Everything You Need to Know About Art, about the greatest artists and their works. This is by Susie Hodge. Books of Blood is by Clive Barker, sorry. But this is, I'm reading now, I'm on like Ryoko, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Rokkyo to neoclassicism. So yeah, I'm enjoying this so far, but yeah, I've only got like 4 more periods of art to read. I've got that, then Romanticism to Realism, Impressionism to Post-Impressionism, and then Modernism to Pop. So they're like the 4 different, periods of art. Then, still reading this, Coming Alone. I read it this week. It's getting quite interesting. It actually recommends The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks, which is the Ian Banks book I've got over there. So that's that. It's just Warren Ellis's columns. I'm really enjoying it. This I want to get back to is George Luis Borges, the Argentinian author. I was hoping I'd read more of this, and I don't know why I've not, because when I've read stories in it, I've enjoyed them. So that's that. And then, again, Essential Chomsky. I still want to read this, so I'll probably try and get on with this a bit more. As I'm going to try and make more of a conscious effort to make progress in Chomsky, Barker and Borges. and the art book I'm reading every time I finish a book. So, audiobooks. I've got 3 audiobooks. I don't have them. I have one with me because I've got it paperback as well as audio, because I wasn't vibing with the audiobook. I was like, I don't really like this narrator. I think that's because I listened to Serge Tankian's book. He read it. So yeah, I'm listening to Acid for the Children by Flea, which is read by Flea, which I was really enjoying. I was like, right, I want to finish this now. So I was listening to it. Next minute, it stops. I'm like, why is it stopping? You only get 15 hours on Spotify a month, and my 15 hours is used up. And it's like, you can pay $9.99 for more hours, but I can buy the paperback for less than that. So that was annoying. Fight Club is another one I'm reading, but I weren't enjoying the audiobook anyway, but I've got the book so I can read that. And then the last one was Confidence, 8 Steps to... I can't remember what it's called, but it's called Confidence by Roxy somebody. It's really good. It's like exercises. So I was like, I got 2 pads the other day. I've got this one where I've wrote down what I want to do for my videos going forward, and then that one was like just to do the exercises in, and then no audio book. But they've got it in my library, so I've ordered that. So I just don't know what to do with Acid for the Children, because I feel like when I get it again, do I listen to it? Do I start it again, or do I carry on from where I am? So that's 3 audio books, but I'm hoping to get the Confidence one, and obviously I've got Fight Club, so I'll hopefully read both of those rather than, well, I'm hoping to read the Confidence one so I can do the exercises as I'm reading. So that's that. And then I'm going to come back to, I'm going to finish off with what I want to read next, and weekend reads and some other things I want to talk about. But I feel like now I'm seeing Sam on my weekends. So when I'm with Sam, I'm not really getting much chance to read. So I'm feeling like I need to either take something that I'm not bothered if I don't get to. So whether it be poetry, something I can just read a few poems of when I've got 5 minutes when we're making a brew or what have you, or maybe something I've read, like Fight Club I've read a couple of times, so that would be a good book. And I'm presuming the chapters, it's been a while, I presume the chapters aren't that long, so like I could read a couple of chapters in that when I've got Sam. So that's what I'm thinking about doing, is kind of having these shorter reads or rereads. So like I want to read, like, you know, I don't know, off the top of my head, I want to reread The Wasp Factory, I want to reread Stoner, trying to think of other books I want to read. I don't mind rereading some of the horrors I've read, like the Slugs and Rats, well, Slugs by Sean Hudson, and like Rats by James Herbert. So things like I could pick up and put down, or short story collections like Borges that I could pick up, read a short story while I've got Sam. So then I've got sugar. So now I've kind of got stuff that I'm not bothered if I don't get to, but at least I've got something like some sharp shock I can just get my teeth into. So that's something I'm thinking about doing as well. And then I want to do my to be read before death list. I saw this on Macaroni Books. I've been a great channel. I've started watching his videos from his earliest one to now. I've not quite watched them all yet, but he mentioned it and I was thinking about it and I was like, I wouldn't mind doing that. But then I decided that I didn't want any of the books off any of these 3 TBRs I've got in this room. I felt like it needed to be different books. So therefore then, if I'm like, oh, I don't fancy that last book, I'm going to read one off my to be read before death list. You're supposed to do 10 books and then cross them out, and then you're left with 0, and then you start again, which is kind of what these TBRs were at first. Like, I'm not reading from the second TBR or the third one, I'm reading from the first one, so once I read everything there, then I can move on to the second one, and then once I've read everything there, I can move on to the third. But this is more of a books I want to get to, like the first 3 books. Was it 3 I was thinking of? No, I think it was, well, I was thinking Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. I was thinking Trieste by Dasa Dernich, and that was my 2 so far, but I'll probably do a list maybe in the next couple of weeks and compile that, because I don't want to, like I say, we're reading books that are on this pile. I mean, I'd probably do a video on that at some point as well, maybe as an additional Cornered by Books sort of thing. So that's that. Weekend reads, like I say, I've got Sam, so I'm going to probably take Clive Barker or Borges and Tree of Smoke as well, just in case, you know, depending where I'm up to and what I fancy on how much time, if we're having a bit of a chill for half an hour, then I'll pick one of those books up. So that's that. So that's my weekend reads. And then vacation books. I'm going away at the end of the month. I'm not quite sure how long I'm going away for. I'm going to Scotland for 4 days, and then possibly Wales, or staying in Scotland, or just coming back and chilling out for a few days off from work. So it's kind of an hard one at the minute what to pack, because I'm feeling like the longer we go for, the bigger the books I want to take. So like, I'm thinking like Wolf Hall, or Angels and Demons, or Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, stuff like that, stuff that I can spend time on. And if not, I'm thinking like things like Pulp by Bukowski, because it's a book I've never read, Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky, and also, like, what else am I thinking about? What else? Oh, and then, like, because I've never been to Scotland before, I was thinking things like Stuart McBride, Ian Rankin, Ian Banks, stuff like that as well. So that's where I was at with that. And then I'm just going to finally say what I'm reading next. So I've shown what I'm currently reading, that's what I'm currently working on. But like I said before, I think there's 5 books that I can't decide between what I want to read next. Sorry, Reggie's nudging me. So I've got Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. I read Imposium, but I wasn't sure about it, but it was quite slow. But this is apparently a really good read and been recommended, so I definitely want to get to that as well. On Goodreads, I don't know if anybody's seen, but they're doing the challenges, like so many books. I did the last quarter, I managed to get all the challenges done. But it was more of an accident, like I read 4 books, I'd done 4 or 5 challenges, and by accident, you know, so I thought, oh, I may as well finish it. And this is one of the books I picked for that, one of the challenges, which is Kairos, but I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the title right, but it's by Jenny Erpenbeck. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I fancy reading that as well. That's a German, translated from German. Sorry. The first one was translated from Polish. Antonio Lloyd-Jones translates that from the Polish. Then Kairos by Jenny Eppenbach was translated by Michael Hoffman. We've still got the price sticker on. And then I've got another library book. I Heard You Paint Houses by Charles Brandt. This is what the movie The Irishman's based off, so I won't mind reading that. And then finally I've got 2 John Williams books that I want to read. So I've got Stoner. I read this twice last year, but want to reread it. I do keep thinking about it, the book. And then I picked up, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Morecambe. There's a bookshop in Morecambe. I didn't want to have... every book I looked at, I was like, And then I saw this and I thought, well, I can't not get it because I wanted it anyway. And that's Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. So I'm really, like, unsure what to read next. I think it'll depend on how long it takes me to read Tree of Smoke, really. So that's that. And then finally, I've got a couple of comic books I want to read next. Now I'll have to see what's on my pile here, because I've got 1, 2, 3, yeah, these 3. So I want to carry on with Sweet Tooth. I started reading it at the start of the year, but I didn't really get anywhere since then. So Sweet Tooth, Endangered Species by Jeff Lemire. This is the 4th volume of 7, so I want to get to that. Also want to carry on with my reread of Sin City by Frank Miller. I'm reading it in bibliography or whatever order it is. And this is The Big Fat Kill, so that's the next one in the series that I need to read. I think that's 7 as well. And then a standalone one is The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller as well. So I've got that as well to read. So that's that. So that's everything. So like I say, we're doing this from probably week to week now. Gasping for a proper drink now, for a cup of tea. But yeah, so like I say, next week I'll probably have less to talk about, because this was, I had a lot of books I'd read, wanted to introduce Cornered by Books, wanted to go about what I'm reading next, mentioned vacation books and everything else I've mentioned, but next week will be a bit shorter and a bit more concise, because it'll be like, well, I've finished Tree of Smoke, or I've not finished Tree of Smoke, I've still got 50 pages, 100 pages, whatever it is, and what I've read, so that's that. Anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking, like, when I've got Sam, just a quick tangent, thinking either a comic book, like something with chapters, would be good. So one of those 3, or like I say, short stories, or a systematic reread like that, or like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is another good book to reread that I love, and it's only like 200 pages, and if I had probably 20 minutes with that, I'd probably get quite a bit read. So anyway, that's that. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one next week. Bye.